everybody. Welcome to the InPsight Show. I am your host, Danielle Egnew, and you are a fly on the wall to everywhere. How are you guys? So I have to tell you, this is the last podcast that I'm doing in this particular studio, and we're tearing it all down, and we are relocating it to its new home. I built a brand new studio, and it's going to be getting placed. As a matter of fact, in just a few days, it's going to go up. So I'm pretty excited about that. So this is kind of epic, to have in this particular space, the last podcast. And of course, the podcast is going to keep going. Yet it's kind of epic to have this be the last one in this particular space. So there you go. That's what's going on in my world. And man, can you guys even believe we are at the very, very end of September? I mean, where did September go? Where did August go? Where did June go or July go? We have been in such a crazy time compression, you guys. It's been insane. So I've been really just watching all of this time fly by, and I'm watching days tick down to our election that's coming up. And man, I'm watching some really interesting sociological dynamics come up. And, I've had a few of you guys be like, I really wish you'd quit talking about politics. It's really getting old. I listen to this to listen to FBI files and UFOs and other things, elementals, blah, blah. And I get that, you guys. I get that. It's just that when we have these opportunities to actually look at sociological change through the projection of civic service, it's fascinating to me. I mean, I don't just watch politics because I think it's interesting. I really don't think it's interesting. What I think is interesting is how people respond to politics. And the debate came out, and Vice President Kamala Harris debated former President Donald Trump. And, there were neither one of them answered direct questions at certain times and whatever. I mean, it's your typical debate. It was interesting to watch Harris just bait Trump. And she did. She was poking him with the stick to have him just kind of lose it and say the crazy things he says. And I would think they're crazy, but to his base, they're not crazy. So in one way, her poking him with the stick and getting him to go off about all these different things, which was very purposeful. She reminded me of the Tom Cruise character at the end of A Few Good Men. Have you guys seen that? And there's Tom Cruise, and he's cross-examining Jack Nicholson. And he keeps poking Jack Nicholson with a stick because Jack Nicholson's character is pretty much a clinical narcissist. He's a high up, I believe he's a general, and he covered something up for the military, and there is Tom Cruise as the prosecutor. And he's poking Nicholson with a stick and poking him and basically saying things like, so you had no control of your men and you didn't know what was going on, and your chain of command is terrible. And after a while, the clinical narcissist just can't not bite down on that, ribbing like a really hungry trout just taking a giant bite out of a fly, right? And so, of course, he crunches down on Tom Cruise and he screams, "You can't handle the truth," and goes on to say, "Yes, I did these terrible things and it was in God and country's name and I'm amazing." And of course, goes to jail. But I was watching Kamala Harris do the same thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And Trump actually held it together a lot better than I thought he would. I was really kind of proud of the guy. He did not talk all over her. He was quiet. He didn't say a word between, when she was talking, even she was baiting him by, when he was talking over the top of him, and he really didn't take that bait, but there was other bait he did take. So I thought it was very interesting. That whole thing was really interesting. And so, we're going to come up on this election, and it's looking today in our ethers that Kamala Harris is going to pull out the Electoral College. And I really check on the Electoral College these days because short of there being some really hardcore shenanigans, and there are shenanigans trying to be played right now with this election, short of there being hardcore shenanigans that would lean the Electoral College in Trump's direction, it's just looking like it's going to be a similar outlay to Biden. And I mean, if you think about it, everybody who voted for Biden is going to vote for Kamala Harris. And it's not like 81 million people are going to be like, oh, after all this time, I've really been thinking about it. And Donald Trump's VP pick, he's just so level-headed and he's so mellow and he's such a uniter. And I think that JP Vance would, he's so calm, that guy. And Trump just really seems like he calmed down. So I know I voted for Biden last time, but I think I'm just going to give Trump and his calm platform a try this time. Said pretty much nobody. I mean, maybe 3 people out there. So if you just look at the numbers, you guys, the sheer numbers had Joe Biden winning the Electoral College. And a majority, if not all of those people that I'm seeing are going to recast their vote for Kamala Harris because they were going to cast their vote for Biden. And that's his Veep. And a lot of those folks were just never Trumpers. Anyway, so what I think is so fascinating about this is I'm watching this energy that is the feminine time frame that really came in with Hillary Clinton. And there was a lot of wiggling in that election. And I'll leave it at that. And Hillary did not make it through the Electoral College. She made it wildly through the popular vote, did not make it through the Electoral College, did not go on to become president of the United States, even though the popular vote was supporting her. And there were some weird wiggles that they reported on with people leaving voting booths and seeing that their vote kind of flickered to Trump at the very end. And I remember watching news stories about that, and nothing was really followed up with it. And I'm assuming it's because they really didn't want the American public to be thinking that our electoral system had gone down the tubes. And I know I said this last podcast, but the irony is that Trump came out there and basically is accusing Kamala Harris and Kamala Harris's campaign and the Democrats of doing every single thing that his campaign did in 2016 to win that election. So it's really fascinating to watch how this plays out. But the time frame of the feminine, it dodged, the bullet there. It itself, the masculine, the imbalanced masculine time frame dodged the bullet. And I got to get a new saying because with all of those school shootings, that just takes on a whole nother meaning that is just yucky, right? So it ducked under the fence, the masculine time frame, and didn't get hit right in the forehead with a couple of elections. But coming in, Kamala Harris is representing the divine feminine. A lot of the divine masculine is voting for Kamala Harris. I know a lot of Republicans that are men that are here in the red state, quote, red state, we're a purple state, but the red state of Montana, who are going to be voting for Kamala Harris because they honestly think Trump has gone off his rails. They think he's crazy. And they don't like the way that he won't concede an election. And they don't like the way that he's trying to, do things in Nevada to shake things up so that he could get one more electoral vote so winner could take all. And they don't like the anti-constitutionalism that Trump is creating with just wanting to win and do what he needs to do. So I think even Trump knows he's not going to win. Trump knows that. He's very aware of that when I psychically look into it. And, we've got all these different media sources saying they're polling people and Trump is polling really high. And I'm not saying there's not folks who are going to vote for him. There's a lot of people who are going to vote for Donald Trump that are holding their nose and can't stand the guy, but do not understand basic economics in the United States and thinks that, the president sends gas and grocery prices somehow because I guess supposedly we're a socialist country, even though they're saying we're going to become one, but they're claiming we are one already. So just people don't know what's happening. OPEC sets gas prices, guys. OPEC. So, and corporate greed has driven up our groceries. So this is what's going on. And what's fascinating is to watch people's response to all this, guys, because we are squarely in this feminine time frame. And within this feminine time frame, we have so much opportunity to be able to really batten down and buckle down and button down and watch a woman get elected president. And not just any old woman, a woman with a Black father and an Indian mother. I mean, wow, we could not possibly represent the melting pot of America in a better way, or the feminine time frame as having a female leader. And it's weird, guys, it's weird that the United States has not had a woman president yet. Every other country that's a popular big country, except for Russia, because Putin just keeps writing himself in and making himself win elections. He's living Donald Trump's dream. Vladimir Putin, I will write myself into the election. And what is he, German now? No, that was a terrible Russian accent. Forget that. But I mean, all of a sudden, there's Putin writing himself in. And of course, Angela Merkel of Germany. And my gosh, I'm blanking out on the amazing leader down in New Zealand. She was awesome and was in her 30s. I don't know if she's still there, but everybody has had the UK. The Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. Hello. So the fact that the United States has not had a female president of the United States is really weird. That's just a few weird white guys that are trying to hang on to some, I don't know what they're doing. It's weird. I don't understand that. Life is going to move on, guys. Life is going to move on. It's going to move forward. We're going to be able to go from one thing to the next thing. And that's sociological. It's evolution. And we don't go backwards. If we go backwards, we're failing. Anytime the hominins on this planet have gone backwards, we've been failing. That's the truth. And they're finding now, up here in Montana, it's crazy, up kind of in the central part of Montana, they're finding these huge dolmen. Huge. And a dolmen is a placed rock formation, like Stonehenge. The edges of Stonehenge, those are dolmen. Huge rock formations with a very obviously placed cap piece, right? It's not like, oh, hey, a glacier came down and made Stonehenge. It's a really talented glacier. It's a glacier with civil engineering backgrounds. What a great glacier. It's not that. I would tell you that we've got these mysterious dolmen that run up the central part of Montana. And there's also a wall in the central part of Montana. And it's not a geological formation. Because, rock can certainly crack along very fine lines. And it can crack symmetrically to a degree. Not like the pyramids, but it can crack pretty symmetrically. Big shards of granite can along the crystalline content within the granite. And what's in the middle of Montana is not a cracked granite slab. It is a wall. And the massive blocks that are in the wall, they're huge. They're humongous. They're like Stonehenge size. And they're the same size as the rest of the dolmen in Montana. And so when I'm talking about if we're going backwards, we're not winning. If you think about it, what does Montana have right in its central southern border? Yellowstone Park, which is mostly under Wyoming, but a little bit of I think the volcano caldera itself is entirely under Wyoming. However, part of the park's boundary is in Montana. So how awesome is that, right? Well, if you think about it, we like to say that human beings are only a couple 100,000 years old. That's what we like to say on this planet called Earth. When we look at all of the different skeletons and the archaeological evidence that's left behind. However, we've got these weird dolmen that run right up the middle of Montana and this giant wall that's just big. This big, weird, giant wall just sitting out there. And who the heck put those there? And so if you think about the last time Yellowstone blew up was roughly, they estimate, around 600,000 years ago. And they're roughly estimating that we're apparently within like maybe a 50,000 year window of Yellowstone potentially blowing off all over again. Good times. So I just built a house that's a little bit close, 40 miles closer to Yellowstone Park. All right, then. Anyway, so when we look at this, when we look at going backwards not always being a good thing, We could have had an incredible, actually we did. We did have a huge, amazing civilization on the earth that we was using and co-creating with the off-world communities. Tons of technical attributes that we used to basically conduct electricity through the air, just like Tesla talked about. And we used stones to do that. And one of the things about central Montana is I was noodling around there years ago with my wife, and we were trying to get up to where these dolmen were because I'm like, Rebecca, take the truck up this 2-track. Come on. And everybody around the Helena, it was around the Helena area, which is the capital of Montana. It's kind of in the center part of the state. And everybody, and I know I've told this story on this podcast before, but this is the brushstrokes quickly. Everybody around the 2-track road that would go up to find these dolmen in these tiny little towns were giving us the Stephen King, man. They're like, I don't know about the dolmen. Get out of here. We don't talk about that here. Get on down the road. Slamming the door, I mean, we went to the public library in a little town right at the bottom of one of these 2-track roads that goes up into the Elk Mountains. And I was asking the librarian, hey, I'm looking for the dolmen. Do you know where they are? And she gave me that side eye and just stacked the books quietly in this teeny tiny little library. It was the only thing open in this teensy weensy little town. It had one gas station. And she's just putting the books away and looking at me and looking at the books and not saying anything. And it's really awkward. And finally she says, yeah, we don't talk about those here. And just kept pushing the books into the... I mean, it was unreal. I was like, why don't I have this on video? You can't make this up. You cannot. So anyway, obviously, when I got up to the area in the Elk Mountains, we didn't get all the way up there. The road got way too bad, even for a pickup truck. You needed a Polaris or my Jeep or something that could handle a really, really broken up road. I mean, it was terrible. Big old 3-foot drop-offs. And I mean, it was not a good road. So while we're up there, I could feel these dolmen and I realized what they were. And they're still radiating up there. They are made of ferromagnetic rock and they are energy transmitters, you guys. So think about, when you drive through 15, if you drive the 15 from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, okay? You're on the 15 and you look up and there are these Herculean towers. They're holding these massive, massive electrical cables that are coming from the Hoover Dam. And they're shooting all the power over to LA and shooting the power all the way down to light up Sin City. I mean, they're huge. And if you get out of your car on the interstate on 15 and you walk just 10 feet off the road towards these giant towers, you can hear them humming. You can hear the electricity running through these huge 6 and 8 and 10 inch across cables. And you're out in the desert and you're just hearing this. It's really eerie. And that's actually electricity that's escaping into the atmosphere. We lose around 40% of our electricity in sheer drag of just friction going from a dam through wires clear 200 miles, 300 miles away to LA. We lose all of this electricity into the air. And that's what you're hearing in the desert is that hum. So when I talk about going backwards not being a good thing, I could detect very clearly that these dolmen were used for transmitting electricity or electromagnetic signals of some kind. And if you think about Yellowstone Park blowing up, that could have taken out everybody in the northern hemisphere in this part of the world. I mean, it's a supervolcano. It is an extinction level event. And prior to that extinction level event, we had an entire society down here with human beings that were interfacing with off-worlders who had taught us to use the electromagnetic tenets of the spinning planet called Earth to create, if you want to call it anti-gravity or zero buoyancy technology, to be able to float these rocks if they were slightly ferromagnetic rocks or if they were limestone. I mean, it's a whole thing, and this is off-worlder technology. They were helping us out. We were really dealing with these beings quite a bit back then. And then Yellowstone Park blows up and takes out all the people and takes out all of this knowledge. And all we have left is Stonehenge and these huge dolmen that they have no idea when they were built in the middle of Montana. They have no idea when this massive wall was put up. And you guys, you have to understand, these are not flat areas. These dolmen are existing in the Elk Mountains, and the Elk Mountains are very wild. They're a wild set of mountains. They have a ton of little people in there, lots of elementals, lots and lots of bears. They are, for all intents and purposes, all mountain ranges are kind of dangerous. The elks are particularly dangerous because the type of undergrowth that occurs in the Elk Mountains obscures your vision. So you can't really see through the forest. In a lot of the forests in Montana until you get up to the northwestern part of the state. Some of the south central forests are pretty thick, but really it's a northwestern portion of the state or the central portion of the state. There's a rain belt in there. You can't see through the forest. A lot of these other forests, like where I live, down in south central Montana, around Billings, you can see through the forest for a good long ways because they're lodgepole pines. There's not enough rain to create those thick layers of bushes and ferns and, berry brambles and things that you find in the elks. So the Elk Mountains can be a very dangerous mountain range. And if you think about, 500,000 years ago, 600, 800,000, a million years ago, the mountains were already in existence. So whomever placed these dolmen there certainly did not roll them up a hill with a donkey, because you can't get where they're placed unless from the air. And it's the same thing with this really big just slab of a wall that I've recently found out about. So the interesting portion is going backwards doesn't work. Going backwards wipes out knowledge. Going backwards is the 1100s and 1000 AD and 1200s, the Dark Ages, where the church went through Europe and just took out all of the science and erased it and drug us back to superstition and hysteria. So no, going back is not good. We have evidence of what going back for the human race means for us. So when we're looking at this feminine time frame, we're looking at a time frame of great evolution forward. And I just really want to say this. This doesn't mean that the masculine is invalidated. In fact, it means that the feminine side of the masculine chi is really held up and is made to be stronger because there is support for the masculine instead of just that bully hazing that we get. The whole alpha beta male thing, that bully hazing actually weakens a lot of the masculine. A lot of the masculine is rooted in the feminine. A lot of the feminine power is rooted in the masculine chi as well within the self. So we've got this wonderful mix of energies. And going forward, you guys, it's really important to note that now that we are squarely in the feminine time frame, and all my timelines here, short of them really just taking over the Supreme Court and not allowing Kamala Harris to swear in and stealing votes and storming voting centers and I'm not saying that wouldn't happen. There's still some crazy out there that's looking for a fight. However, with all of that, even with all of that, guys, the feminine time frame is still here to stay. So we've got a few different dynamics than we did in 2016, where the election was literally just kind of shoved right out from underneath Hillary Clinton as it was occurring. There's not those resources, and it's not the same world, and we're looking for different things now. And so what we've got a group of folks out there sociologically who are associating this feminine time frame and the change in the energies of it. They're associating this energetic shift as something negative or foreign or evil. And the fact of the matter is, it's just a lean more towards the feminine chi, which obviously men have as well. So this lean towards the feminine chi is about stewardship. And I know I've been talking about this since 2012. Y'all are probably super sick of it. But the bottom line here is that we're coming into a kinder, gentler time frame, and there are a lot of people who have forged their identity on being the angry alpha abuser. That the crazed, literally taught themselves to be this blustering, anxiety-ridden, narcissistic wacko, smashing their fist on the table saying, this is what's happening, this is my way. Literally. So what do you do with millions upon millions upon millions of people, and a lot of them are women? Oh my God, lots of them are women. They're not all men. What do we do with these millions of people who for generations have forged their identity on being the blustering, angry, get off my lawn person? How do you take a person whose literal worth in their own eyes and in the eyes of their family is how loud they can yell, get off my lawn, get off, lawn. What do you do with that? Right? So we're having a consciousness problem right now with this election. And it goes way beyond politics. And this is why I follow politics, guys. This is why. Because it's showing us where we are at sociologically. And it's also showing us sometimes through our lowest common denominator where our fears lie. If you think about it, the lowest common denominator in fear is going to create an us against them. That is the lowest hanging fruit. Division is the lowest hanging fruit in the aggregation genome. Division. So I'll separate you from you. And now here we go. Now I've aggregated. Now I've got my tribal sense of power. I've got a fulcrum of power now that I've split us and divided us up. And fear is a very low-hanging way to do that. Look at all this horrible, heinous lies and some of them were just assumptions, but a lot of them were lies, assumptions that turned into lies about the pet eating thing in Ohio. I still have dear friends here in Montana that really believe that it's true. And it's not true. The lady who started the whole thing on Twitter, it's called X, I know. The lady who started this whole thing came out on X and literally said, I messed up. I feel really bad. Everybody needs to calm down. I was the one that posted the tweet. What are you going to call it? The X? I don't know. I'm still calling it a tweet. The tweet about me thinking that my Haitian neighbor ate a cat. But I didn't even really know if that actually happened. I just thought maybe that happened, or I had heard that happened. And then, of course, J.D. Vance took that and said, they're eating cats. The Haitians are eating cats in Ohio. And then, of course, Trump never fact checks. So he gets on television and says, they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the everything. The frogs, the toads. They're eating the bunnies. They're eating the mices. And that just took off and everybody laughed at him, except for this group of people that really believe that pets were being eaten. And they still want to believe that, even though this woman on X came out and said, I effed up. I made a mistake. This didn't really happen. And I thought it happened, and we need to calm down. Because that narrative fulfills a consciousness, and that consciousness is fear, and that is the lowest hanging fruit of, again, the aggregation genome. How do I divide everybody? We're going to make you afraid. And those are afraid of the same thing, come stand over here. And it's hilarious because the same people in Ohio is a giant swing state, you guys. So think about the timing on this. Okay? Ohio is pivotal in elections. So miraculously, right before a presidential election, a story comes around about a Haitian eating a cat, which is untrue, by the way. So then it spreads and goes crazy. Now we have Ohio, who's not going to hire the local sheriffs for security at the polling place. And it's disgusting that we need security at our polling places in America. Shame on anybody out there who wants to disrupt an election. Shame on you. Good Lord. I mean, it's still a free and fair election, people, even though you don't want to believe it is because the guy you like isn't going to win and didn't win. It's still a free and fair election. Believe me, I'd love it to all be fake. We have a crazy, crazy governor here in Montana. I'd love his election to be fake. It was real. So there it is. But as we look at this consciousness right now, you guys, it is so important to remember to not get divided by it. And that's really hard. You know, this misinformation and disinformation and fake information about Haitians eating cats and dogs and whatever in Ohio, it's just been run with to the point where the Ohio election office was going to hire the Ohio Sheriff's Department to come down there and guard the elections. And now they're not anymore because like the lead sheriff, the guy who's running for re-election, got out there and said, well, anybody who has Harris yard signs, we need to take down their addresses. And then we need to drop all the illegals off on their doorstep. And so there is this blatantly racist, weird thing going on in Ohio's sheriff's department. So they're no longer hiring the sheriff's department because a lot of Ohioans came out and said, are you kidding me? We can't have these bubbas up here trying to guard the election boxes. Are you voting for Harris? Go ahead and go home, you know. That was the fear. So, of course, Ohio is not allowing this sheriff guy and his folk to do any security at the election. But the consciousness, look at the consciousness. The consciousness. This guy happens to be white, okay? And the consciousness of these people are getting everything for free. Now, here's what I'm confused by, because if you go listen to J.D. Vance, who isn't he like the senator from Ohio or whatever? He's just way out there, way out there. J.D. Vance, that poor thing. He just recently was doing this slam ad on Kamala Harris about eggs being $4 a dozen. And he's standing in front of an egg section in Ohio. And he's got 2 dozen eggs in his hand. And he's talking about how this dozen eggs, it's 2 dozen. This dozen eggs is $4, and that's Bidenomics. That's Harrisnomics. And right behind him, you guys, are all these signs taped to the cooler. Dozen eggs, $2.99. Dozen eggs on sale, $2.99. He's standing right in front of it, just going off about the $4 eggs in the dozen that he's holding. That is 2 dozen eggs. Okay? I mean, could the illusions be any more obvious right now? So old J.D. Vance is over there, the senator. I'm pretty sure he's the senator. He's from Ohio. And he's talking about fake eggs that aren't that much money. And he's pushing this, ooh, there could be Haitians eating dogs and cats. All in an attempt to stir the pot, to get the fear going, to get the fear dividing people, to get people focusing on Ohio, which it's worked. Springfield has flown off the map and has had death threats to the schools, and they've literally had the town on lockdown a lot of times, and they'd open it back up again and have to do it on lockdown again because of all these bomb threats. But coming from Springfield, supposedly, are these TikToks. I've watched a couple. And I see certain friends of mine sharing this, don't listen to MSM, mainstream media, which is really close to MSN. So I don't know who made that one up. But anyway, MSM, mainstream media, don't listen to it. And they're saying that on these TikToks, these very hysterical people that have the same level of hysteria, that one note level. You know how I was talking about watching for the Russian disinformation because it's like a fire hose and it's really like this and everybody's like this and it never takes a break and oh my God, and it goes on and it's really, 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 really bad things. That is the pace of the Russian disinformation machine. So I'm watching these TikToks that my friend was spreading around saying, listen to what the people in Springfield are really saying that's really going on. Don't listen to the media. Listen to the people of Springfield. Okay, people of Springfield. And the people of Springfield are getting up there in this really manic kind of way of just, firing it off, saying things like, these illegals are paying cash for all of these houses and driving us out of our houses because the illegal aliens are coming in with cash and paying over asking price with their cash. So we're all being thrown out because we can't afford to live with the illegal aliens coming in to pay cash. Okay. Well, is that a different crop? Because they're talking about the Haitians now. These are the Haitians. But apparently this is the same Haitian population who's so poor that they're eating dogs and cats. So are they inferring that the immigrant population of Springfield, Ohio, in an attempt to save all the cash for the houses, saved money by eating cats and dogs? I mean, it is the most I don't even have a word. It's jackass is what it is. So either they're so poor they're eating cats and dogs, or they're so wealthy they're purchasing houses out from underneath of people in Springfield. I literally shit you not. This is this TikTok of these people going, and they're all these manic people, and they're either all on meth or they're all paid actors. That's all I can tell you, because they're just this manic energy. Yeah, in my house it got bought out, and I swear to God, I'm never going to be able to get any place because I can't get anywhere because these people are buying this, blah, 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 blah. And then go to lady. Yeah, you guys, it goes on and on. And I'm thinking, who actually believes this? I'm a filmmaker, you guys. I make movies. I am a filmmaker. I have made a movie, Montgomery House, The Perfect Haunting, which I'm hoping to get into distribution, even though I made it like 10 years ago. I hope I can get that distributed soon. But the fact of the matter is, you guys, I make television shows. I make films. I make shorts. I'm an editor. I can see this stuff, guys. I can see where this stuff is put together. I mean, real people, again, unless they're drunk, super high on meth, or paid, just do not have that level of histrionic delivery unless you're in the middle of a riot, So I'm looking at these TikToks, and I say to my friend who is passing them around, I said, well, wait a minute, which is it? Are the poor Haitian folks in Ohio, are they so poor they're eating dogs and cats, or are they so wealthy they're buying you out of your homes? It can't be both ways. And my friend who is passing this around really didn't answer my question. But the point is, it's Ohio. The point is, it's fear. The point is, they will say anything right now, and they is a group of folks who are deeply afraid that things are changing, and they want to take us back to the days before we had, look at us now. We're still running electricity through giant 6 and 8 inch wires across the desert because the Yellowstone Park took out the electromagnetic semiconductors that were made out of stone that were placed there by our off-world friends and moved the geo and electromagnetic energy of the earth through the air. Tesla. I mean, we have people who want to take all the knowledge because they're so afraid they won't fit in and they won't have power anymore. That's it. That's what this is about. All of it is about money and power. That's it. And people can say it's about God. Maybe for a few people, it's about their version of a very white, angry, strange God. And I say strange because the God God's going to be different for all of us, you guys. My version of God's going to be really different than yours. And heck, you might even have some opportunities that you're like, well, I don't even believe in God, but I believe in love and kindness and human decency. Okay. Somebody like me would say, great. I believe those are God in action, and somebody'd say, well, I don't think you need to be God to be those things. Great. Excellent. It's all good. So those people who are wanting to roll back time, they want to do so because they want the power structure back. It's about power. They'll say it's about God, but it's about power. So this is why this is not about politics. It's about consciousness. Why do people crave power? Why? People crave power because they're afraid. And, there's some people that crave power because they're crazy. But most people, the non-crazy ones, are just scared. And they think if they have the power, they can control the society. And if they can control the society, they can beat back that little devil that's inside of them or whatever they perceive. That is their anxiety. That is a world they don't understand. They cannot perceive a world where off-worlders would come down here and help us build these dolmen out of electro and ferromagnetic rocks space and transmit all this energy through the air. They can't perceive of that reality. So the fear drives them to hang on to a really, really warped version of Little House on the Prairie. I love that show. We could all be as progressive as Charles Ingalls. Come on. So what we're dealing with is not politics, guys. What we're dealing with is consciousness. Consciousness. And when I hear people say, well, I don't want to get involved in politics. Okay, fine. I get you don't want to be involved in the ugliness of the battling and fighting of civics. But please, we're all doing each other a disservice by not paying attention to how the hope and the fear both inform our sociological growth as a species. Guys, we have to pay attention to this because we are the ones who control that growth. This growth is not the tail wagging the whole dog. We are the dog wagging the tail, and we are creating a tail full of division right now. So what do we do? What do we do, folks? What do we do? What if you're a Trump supporter and you're listening out there and maybe you love the guy. Maybe you're holding your nose and you're voting for him because you really do believe that he's better for the economy short term, and that's what you're focused on. Whatever. The fact is, timelines and the math lean very heavily toward Kamala Harris. So when Kamala Harris is elected as president, and, they're talking about it being a close vote in this and that and the other thing, and, there's going to be some states, obviously, that Trump wins, like Montana. He may win Montana. He may not. There's a lot of people here pretty disgusted with Donald Trump. We'll see what happens. However, it's not about what team you're on. It's about why these changes are coming in. So if Kamala Harris is elected and you are a Trump supporter, is it then going to be another 4 years of it's stolen, I'm going to take my toys and go home and cry in the sink, and I'm going to not be part of the United States because the guy that I wanted didn't win? Are we going to go into that consciousness? Hey, gang, if you're a Kamala Harris supporter and Trump manages to pull this out by God even knows what, it would have to be some spin because his numbers aren't there, guys. I'm looking at it in the ethers. The numbers aren't there for him. Doesn't mean they couldn't figure out a way to manufacture numbers, but I'm looking at the numbers and the numbers aren't there for him. But if he pulls out a win somehow, if he pulls it out, those who are Harris supporters, I'm a Harris supporter. How are we going to handle that? Are we going to just sit on the sidelines and say, F everybody who supports Donald Trump, F America, I'm not doing this anymore. Let's do terrible things to the Capitol and riot and cry in our soup because our gal didn't win? I hope not, because we're going to have so much work to do if Donald Trump actually does pull off a win somehow. It won't be with the numbers, but if he pulls it off somehow, then those of us that don't support the guy still need to support our communities. We still need to be out there making a difference. We still need to be out trying to turn this world into something better, not just falling into a pit of despair because our team didn't win. And like I said, highly unlikely he's going to win, but we've got to stop the consciousness division. Have the people you support believe in what you believe in. Don't cross lines that make you feel like you need to take a Silkwood shower. I get it. But it's about the consciousness, you guys. It's about the consciousness. And to Donald Trump's credit, and I got to give him this credit, he's not a stupid person. He's a little delusional. And like I always say, maybe you and me would be just as delusional if everybody kissed our butt our entire life and told us yes, no matter what. We probably all would be a little delusional. I think that's fair to say. However, I got to give Trump credit that even in his delusional state, and they recently paid Melania Trump to show up at one of the rallies. Oh, it's just sad. It just makes me sad for him. His life is not good right now. And I know everybody's like, how could you be sad? He's a psycho. He ruined America. Did he though? Or was it millions upon millions of people who really wished he would be more of a psycho, and they were the ones that went out there and just kept being ugly? Takes more than one person, guys. Think about it. I mean, and not every Trump supporter is an ugly person. I think it's important to note that. So if you look at what's happening right now, it's very important to note that this is about consciousness and how we choose to interact with one another in the feminine time frame. And the masculine two rams bust horns and one wins and the other one falls down the mountain and that's the end of it. And there can be only one, like the Kurgan. That's the masculine time frame. Well, there could be only one president of the United States. However, the feminine time frame is all about working together. It's about working in Congress with one another to make a circle to be able to be the stewards of that which we have been gifted or given or earned. Okay? So, I'm not going to lie. If Trump somehow pulled off those numbers, and I just in good faith, I can't say win the election because I'm not looking at those numbers that would give him a win, doesn't mean he couldn't pull off a win. Doesn't mean he couldn't find the numbers somewhere. Wink, wink. Okay? However, even if that's the case, and even if that's what happens, I'm not going to be super happy about it because the agenda he's pulling with Project 2025 does not resonate with the majority of people. However, even if that happens, I'm not going to stop being who I am. I'm not going to stop talking about the fact that this consciousness is disturbed and needs to come to a rest because that kind of polarization and fear he would have a very, very unsuccessful presidency this time around if for some reason he got in. And I think Donald Trump is smart enough to know that. He knows he's behind. He knows he's not going to win against Kamala Harris. He knows it. He knows it. And he was trying to launch some crypto and use his name to get some crypto money flowing and to get some fundraising going. He's tried to launch a couple of different ventures. Those ventures are now failing because of the energy that he's pushing them with. And there's a lot of folks out there, guys, who love Trump. They deeply love him. And again, lots more who are holding their nose and just voting for him because they think it's an economic choice that's better. However, even Donald Trump knows that he can't spin this one. I think he reminds me of that. If you watch any movie about a con artist, at the very end, when they've been made, there is a shift in their energy and they start just kind of heading for the back door to get the hell out of there. And that's the energy I feel in Donald Trump's campaign. And honestly, I think J.D. Vance is stumping harder for Trump than Trump is at this point. And he's doing what he does. He's out there with his rallies and he's doing his thing. But J.D. Vance is the one who doesn't really see the writing on the wall because he wants to be vice president so he could be president someday. Trump is 78 years old. He's the oldest person to ever run for office. So if he keels over from 25,000 Big Macs a minute, J.D. Vance is president. So of course Vance is out there doing anything he can, creating fictitious stories about dogs and cats in Ohio. J.D. Vance is walking around saying eggs are $4 in front of signs that say $2.99. That kind of consciousness, that avarice and it's greed blinds a person to the freaking egg sign they're standing right in front of because his need and his desperation is so great. Again, this is consciousness, you guys. And I get really weary. I'll be straight out with you. I get really weary when folks are like, well, wait a minute. Hold on. This is about Republicans and Democrats. I'm like, well, those are the costumes this consciousness exercise is wearing, but no, it's not. This is about what do we do with each other, you guys? There are too many people out there who are so afraid. Our planet is changing. Corporate greed has gone insane. Nobody can afford anything right now. People are so terrified. And they think the only way to make it better is to go back. Yeah. How'd that go? How'd that go for all those people that got wiped out by the supervolcano and all we have left is a big wall and 6 dolmen up in the Elk Mountains? How'd that go for all those folks? Not great. Okay? We can't go back. How is that going? As a society that evolved from the Dark Ages and the Vatican has all of this science locked in its belly, in its basement, that I really wish they would just unlock and give to everybody. The Vatican could be the darling of the earth if they prosecuted child molester priests and open up their vaults to everybody. They would be the hero. But again, that fear of losing power is so great. It is so great. The thing is, if we all have a significant amount of power, which we all do, by the way, every single one of us does, spiritually, mentally, intellectually, I had a friend of mine who said, how can you say that? There are children born with cognitive issues that disallow them to even put a thought together. How can you say they are mentally coming in brilliant? And my answer to that is, how do you define brilliance? Just because they can't talk to you, you have no idea what radio dial they're on. You have no idea what frequency these children are on. I can feel their frequencies. A lot of these kids coming in that may seem like they are non-communicative, or maybe they're, quote, brain dead, or these things. Their spirit is on such a pure high channel that it makes us look like a bunch of monkeys flinging our poop at each other down here. I'm not kidding you. So when we're looking at this consciousness, you guys, let us have some kindness with one another. No matter who you're voting for, that is a face on the consciousness you choose for whatever reason. And we cannot allow fear to become our aggregator. Because you turn into J.D. Vance standing in front of the eggs saying, wagging 2 dozen eggs, saying it's a dozen, claiming they're $4 when they're $2.99. Any of us, you, me, the collective we, all look crazy when we ignore what's trying to happen around us. And what's trying to happen around us is not the big blue wave or the big red wave. What's trying to happen around us is an enormous connection with our fellow planet and each other. That's what's trying to happen. And that's one of the reasons, the minute we do that, guys, we start achieving incredible things as a human race. That's why the Sadducees and the Pharisees didn't like Jesus. Jesus, the Christed Jesus, was trying to get us all to just hang together and be cool. Jesus didn't want to be worshipped. Jesus kept pointing people to God, going, you worship God. I'm the truth, the light, and the way. And what that meant, the way was not, it was the way, like do what I'm doing. It was a modality. I'm showing you what to do to connect with one another to bring peace on earth. I'm showing you what to do. But then, of course, folks had to make it all about Jesus. Well, let's worship Jesus. And Jesus is like, I pray to God. I worship the Father God. So, if you're a person who was raised in Christianity, this gets lost on you because everybody's so busy worshiping Jesus. We don't need to be so afraid of something that we have to turn something else into something that it never wanted to be. Jesus was here to be part of everybody. Muhammad, the teacher, was here to be part of everybody. The Buddhas were here to be part of everybody. There are multiple Hindu gods whose names, gosh darn it, I can never remember, and I need to study a little more in that area, who were here to teach us to be part of everything. Hinduism is about everything. Buddhism is about everything. The teachings of Jesus were about everything. Religion made it into the one thing. So politics, civics are about everything. Politics make it into the one thing. Civic service is about doing service for others. Politics is about taking punches to earn money through single issues. Are you following here? So let's not call all fruits an apple just because an apple is a fruit. This is what is required of us in this time frame. Regardless who wins this election, we still have work to do to tie our planet together and to be able to show one another that we have faith in one another and we love one another, even if we disagree. And I realize there's a lot of hurt feelers out there, a lot that go across the board. I have very, very conservative friends who really don't hardly have any liberal friends left, if we're to use all the ridiculous labels, because the conservative friends were saying things that were so hurtful to the liberal folk, and the liberal folk came back to him and said, how could you be so hateful and so racist? And the conservative folks were like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm not a racist. And they're like, but you kind of are. Look at what you said. And then all the feelings are hurt across the board. And instead of going to that person who said these things that I might consider or someone else might consider racist and saying, why are you so afraid that you would think that people with dark skin are the issue? Because this is about fear. What are you really afraid of? And yeah, they're actually now looking at racism as a mental illness, and of course, narcissism is listed in that category. So there are certain tweaks of the brain that can happen, but overall, this is just fear, guys. It is fear. And I've known a lot of my lefty friends who were so full of fear and so hand-wringing over, oh my God, what if Trump wins again? And I just can't take it. And I'm just going to go in my basement and eat beans for the rest of my life. And I'm looking at my lefty friends and I'm like, are you seriously going to do that? Because why don't you just hand consciousness over to J.D. Vance then? Congratulations. Just lay down and die, why don't you? Because the earth is still going to keep moving. The United States is going to keep pummeling forward. And how we choose to show up, guys, is what shapes this nation. And yes, of course, laws do. And sadly, money does. But how you choose to show up. Numbers, timelines lean towards Kamala Harris very heavily here. So if that outcome, which I'm looking at, comes to pass, then what are we going to do with our friends who truly believe Trump is the way and the truth and the light? You know, if we decide to flush them all down the toilet, then what is the difference between us doing that to that person or the Ohioans who want to flush every Haitian down the toilet because they're Haitian? There is no difference. I'm sorry, guys. There's no difference. Discrimination energy is discrimination energy. Marginalization is marginalization. Oppression and deciding that someone's beliefs are not your beliefs, therefore you're going to cut them off, hope they don't have any rights. I'm just calling it out pretty raw here today, guys. I have some friends on the left that weren't really kidding, who are like, these people who are trying to do this and this with healthcare deserve to go to prison. And I said, well, okay, hold on now. I absolutely do not believe that women's healthcare needs to be taken away. But watch what you're saying, because words have weight. And just because they're saying that about you doesn't mean you need to say it about them. Two wrongs absolutely do not make a right. Hello, Thumper's mom. Lord. So I'm not asking everybody out there to be a saint. I'm not asking you to throw away the hurt that has been caused to you by anybody out there who hurt you. I am not asking you to ignore ugliness that you have witnessed and injustice that you have witnessed and act like it's not a big deal and act like Mother Teresa. All I'm saying, gang, is that we are in the most pivotal consciousness exercise probably since the days of Martin Luther King. And right before that, and Kennedy, President Kennedy, not this poor thing running around doing whatever he's doing now. I'm talking about the last time we had this opportunity was the Civil War. And we're not going to have another civil war. There are people who wish we would because they don't know what to do with their fear. But we don't need to go there. We are in a pivotal time where we can bring our education, our compassion, our strength, our no bullshit boundaries, guys. We can bring all of those forward and still bring them in such a bucket of love for our fellow humans who need us right now. The earth is trying to kill us right now, guys. Don't know if you've noticed, but it's getting there. Our storms are kind of intense and our heat's kind of awful and our bugs are plentiful and our flooding is vast. It's like a freaking Old Testament section right now. And the more we get to see the beauty in one another, guys, the less afraid we are. The less afraid we are, the less the low-hanging aggregator of fear works on all of us. Okay? I mean, I think it's pretty clear I'm a Harris voter. I'm a lefty. However, I am so progressive, I am so left that I actually believe that love and dignity and compassion and hard work and showing up when you say you're going to show up and not judging others is a way forward. I do believe very strongly that having balanced justice, that holding people to account but not crucifixion, to make sure that we can bring changes while giving others an opportunity. And I sure hope you would give me the opportunity to grow, guys. You know, if I'm really missing the mark over here somewhere, please give me the opportunity to grow. Please give me a minute to have the light bulb go over my head and go, oh, wow, wait. Now I have new information that augments everything I thought was true. And now I'm changing my way forward. Please give me that radius because I will give it to you. I don't care who you are out there. I will give it to you because we are designed to grow. And I may not agree with certain things, and certain things may just piss me right straight off, and a lot does. I'm Italian and Scot. There's a lot that pisses me off. However, guys, I never in my life have hated anybody. And if you find yourself starting to hate someone or something, I mean that kind of hate where you're just white hot blinded and you could care less what happens to them. You go numb. If they're being skinned alive in front of you, you couldn't care less. Ask yourself why you're so hurt. That is a response to woundedness. And let your inner being and your inner spirit tell you why you're hurt. What hurt you so badly? What scared you so badly? And maybe all that emotion that would drive you to that place is not unfounded. However, being able to recycle that emotion into something that doesn't suppress, the person who hates is suppressed under that energy signature. It'll suck the oxygen out of your heart, out of your soul, out of your cells. Hatred is a vacuum that can never be filled. So just understand. And I know there's a lot of people out there who have a hell of a lot of reasons to be really angry and really hurt and really hateful. I do. I read the little wiggle fabrics of our third dimension. I get it. I am, every day, I am so grateful for the existence that I lead. And I recognize that there is so much suffering and it is so intense and it is so vast and deep and gross and terrifying and sickening out there. Yet if you're someone who is trapped in that space, the humanity that no one can take away from us is rooted and anchored in love, kindness, and decency. Nobody can make you or me be ugly. We have to choose that. And maybe we do that because we're tired, or maybe we do that because we're afraid, but no one can make me be ugly. I must choose to be ugly emotionally, psychologically, outside of being born with wonky wiring in your brain. This is a choice. My dad, Thomas Egnew, Dr. Thomas Egnew, has said many times, he said many times that, pain is real and suffering is real. And out of the two of those, suffering can also, at a choice to suffer, it's a choice to a degree, even though the pain is very real. And I've heard other people say that as well. Pain is real, suffering is a choice. And sometimes we all suffer. There's times I suffer greatly, guys. There's times I'm in a fetal position in my bed and I'm done for that day. I cannot take the level of fear and rage and fear. It's fear that turns into seething hatred because the people who are fearful don't feel like they're seen. There's days when I can't even get out of bed with that. I'm not kidding you. It's a real thing. The struggle is real. I don't choose to suffer in that moment, although I am suffering in that moment, if that makes sense. When it's over, like a crappy wave that washes over you full of poo, like I'm swimming too close to the sewer outlet in Huntington Beach. It's just not good. But once the tide changes, the tide changes. So politics is consciousness. Consciousness is politics. Fear is consciousness. Consciousness is fear. We must begin to crawl up. Well, we don't have to. You can stay down in the fear pits if you want, I suppose. It's a choice. It's all choices. I would recommend finding a rope ladder that's attached to some higher places and just climb up the rope ladder a few rungs and take a look at it. Get out of the mud a little bit and take a look at what's there. And I'm not asking you to give up your beliefs, and you wouldn't ask me to give up mine. Well, you might, but, and maybe I would if there was enough data to support that. Sure. I'm not past growing. Yet, gang, we got a lot of sparks that are going to fly through this election time, between now and election time. We're going to have people trying to rush polling places. We're going to have intimidations of people who are putting out Harris signs. This is fear coming up. And let us not all make every single person into one person. If one person spray paints terrible things on Harris signs, and that's coming, you just wait. It's going to be a nationwide thing. That doesn't mean every person who's not voting for her is that person who did that. Separate the fear from the people. We can't just be lemmings running off a cliff on a bumper sticker, just following the leader. We have got to get our gray matter plugged in. And more than that, we've got to get our hearts plugged in, guys. This is a pivotal time. One of the most exciting times to be alive. So get out there and vote. Vote for whoever you're going to vote for, but be part of the consciousness. Don't let the corporate tail wag the dog. Don't let the fear factory wag the dog. Be part of the consciousness that's bringing in something better. Because, guys, we're not going to go backwards. The only way to go backwards is extinction, okay? We're not going there. We're going forward. Let's develop this into the world we would like to see. And let's lead with love. Let's lead with decency. Let's lead with patience. Let's lead with kindness. Let's lead with firmness. Let's lead with fairness. You can be tough and fair at the same time. You don't have to be cruel. And let's go forward in this feminine time frame that is favoring a 98th percentile here currently, today on our show, a Harris presidency. Let's go into this new time frame showing everybody that there is a better way than beating down the opponent and shaming them when they lose. That's not how we do this. This is not 1410. We got this, you guys. We have an opportunity to bring the greatest change this country has seen in 100 years. And no matter who you're voting for, how we are every day to one another, that literally creates the presidency. So, there you go. I love all you guys. Now I got to get this podcast processed and uploaded and tear this entire studio down. So I hope that all of you are in fantastic transitions that are positive. And if you're waiting for a transition to come in, believe me, they're coming. Lots of beautiful ones that are coming. So everybody, my biggest love to all of you. Let's get in and do this human experiment to the point where we can uplift every single one of us, no matter what our deal is, in kindness, and give everybody a shot to grow. All right, guys, I will see you next podcast.